So this is going to be my first video, and I'm going to be doing the TTC tag. And I have it on my phone, so I'm going to be looking on here. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first question is, how long have you been trying to conceive? And that question's a little bit tricky just because, so I went off of birth control in October, and we started trying then. And then in March, we stopped trying, and I'll get into that a little bit more when we went into the tag. So we were not trying and not preventing from March until now, and now we've got the go-ahead to go ahead and start trying again. So we've had the idea that we were going to be trying since October, and it really feels like it's been since October just because a lot of friends and people at work who are now pregnant, and I'm not pregnant, and I was trying to get pregnant before they were even thinking about it. And sorry, that's my dog in the background. She's a little crazy. So October to March, and then now we're kind of starting fresh. How many kids do you have since / want? So this would be our first official real baby. Obviously, we have our dog, who is our little fur baby right now. Ideally, we would want maybe, I would go up to 4. My husband is firm set on 3. I'm from a family of 2, and he's from a family of 5. And I feel like 2 is a little bit too few, and he feels like 5 is a little bit too many. So somewhere in between there, so 3 or 4. Obviously, we don't have any kids, so can't really know how many you want, I think, until you have one, until you've experienced what having a child is like, and all the ups and downs, and all that good stuff. So that's where we are, between 3 and 4, but it's a flexible number, and it could totally change, and nothing is really set in stone. How long have you been married? So we will have been married 2 years come October 13th. So we got married October 13th, 2013. What are some crazy things you do while trying to TTC? So I guess one thing that I tried very briefly, because, reading online and reading forums, you kind of see a lot of advice, is I tried taking Mucinex to make my cervical mucus better. I saw no difference, and I don't know. In my opinion, I'd rather try things that are maybe a little bit more natural, or just kind of do the thing, versus like me taking Mucinex maybe dries me up. I don't know. There was a lot of different opinions on that, and so since it wasn't something the doctor told me to do, and I tried it for a few days and I noticed no difference, and maybe I should have been doing it for longer to notice a difference. I'm not really sure, but I stopped. So Mucinex. Right now we're trying the sperm meets egg plan. So basically that's a plan for people who know that they can get pregnant. Back in April, I actually had a really, really early miscarriage. Basically, the time that I found out I was pregnant was when I figured out I was miscarrying. So it was between 5 and 6 weeks, very early. And so now that we've had our first menstrual cycle since then, we're trying the sperm meets egg plan, which is kind of straightforward, but you have to keep track of your days and are you blah, 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 all that stuff, and it tells you when you should be having sex. So we have a sexualender, which is basically a calendar that has the days on it that I work, because I work night shifts, so sometimes we have to work around that, and when we need to have intercourse so that we can have a baby. Or baby dance. I'm not a big fan of that term. I think it's kind of silly. I understand why people use it, but we're having sex. We're doing the dirty. Does your husband know all about TTCing? He kind of knows the basics. I've been over some of it with him. I think that he would prefer not to know all of the nitty-gritty, because I think that takes some of the magic out of trying to conceive. So we try and not talk about it a whole lot, because, it's a lot of pressure. And so we try and kind of just do what we do and hope that makes a baby. Okay, number 7. Have you been diagnosed with any kind of infertility? So, yes and no. So basically, when we first got married, actually let me back up. When I was in high school, I've always had a big thyroid. And they basically were like, oh, you're just growing, that's totally normal, don't worry about it. And then right before we got married, I went to the gynecologist just to do a well visit, and they the nurse practitioner who saw me, who I adore and who unfortunately does not work there anymore, she was like, your thyroid's kind of big, let's go ahead and check your TSH and see what that is. And I think I can pull up everything, but my TSH was 3 point something, so over 4.2, maybe 4.5 is abnormal and high. So she said, so this is on the higher end of normal, go ahead and follow up with your primary care physician, and we won't worry about it. This is kind of where you've been, we know you have a big thyroid, we're going to watch it. But being a young, healthy individual, I did not have a primary care physician to follow up with, and I never really thought anything of it because, you know, she said it was fine. I didn't know in the whole trying to have a baby world that you actually wanted under 2.5. So I was like, so yeah. So then flash forward, it was March. I've always been a big proponent, this past March, I've always been a big proponent of going and getting things checked out before you start trying to have a baby, which of course we really didn't. I had another well checkup in October, or in September, right before I went off of birth control. And the nurse practitioner kind of breezed through me, didn't give me a chance to ask questions. I had a lot to ask, and I wasn't being a really good advocate for myself either, so I take responsibility for that. So I went off of birth control without telling my gynecologist what my plan was. And so in March, I went back. Let's see. Here we go, results. So the first TSH was in September 10th of 2013, and normal values range from 0.27 to 4.2, and mine was 3.38. So it was within the normal limits, but on the high end for trying to conceive, which I wasn't aware of. Oh, hello, Zoe. And then in March, I went and did a preconception visit with an actual gynecologist, not the nurse practitioner, and basically was kind of talking through. She was like, oh, it seems like they tested your TSH before. I kind of told her my whole story. She said, well, let's go ahead, and on the safe side, go ahead and test it. You're not having any symptoms of having a slower thyroid, so you're probably fine. And I said, oh, yeah, let's go ahead and test it. So she called me back later that day, and my TSH was 20.12. Remember, normal is 4.2 and under. And so we were like, oh, well, that's weird. Normally when your TSH is high, when your TSH is high, that means that your thyroid hormone is low and your body's trying to stimulate itself to create more of the thyroid hormone, so your TSH goes up. And you're just stealing the show. And so if your TSH is high, that means that your thyroid hormone is low. That can be caused by Hashimotos, which is an autoimmune disorder. It can also be of unknown origin, basically, which is what mine was. I do not have Hashimotos, but I do have hypothyroidism. And the symptoms for that, basically it slows down your metabolism. So it makes you fat, it makes you tired, it makes you cold, it makes you have dry skin, it makes you all these things. None of which I was really experiencing. I'd put on about 10 pounds in the last year, but I worked night shift. I was tired, but I worked night shift. My skin was dry, but we were just getting over winter, and I worked night shift. Like, basically every single symptom that I had really wasn't anything that I would say, oh, yeah, I have hypothyroidism. And it is a chronic illness that I'm going to have for the rest of my life, which is kind of a big deal to me. So, yeah. Not great. But yeah, so we just got that under control, which is why we got the go-ahead to try and have a baby again. When we were not preventing, I did get pregnant in April, but we had another reason why we thought that we wouldn't get pregnant, our kind of second infertility problem. My husband was diagnosed with the mumps in college, and having the mumps as an adult can affect a man's fertility. So at that same visit where I found out about my TSH, we also went ahead and got a semen analysis ordered for him. And the semen analysis showed that most things were very normal. His motility was normal, his number of sperm were normal. His sample size was a little low, but that's because the jar tipped over, we think, and the urologist said that's probably the most common reason for the sample size being low is that you lose part of the sample. And the only thing that was a little low was his morphology, which was 3%. So 3% of his sperm were shaped normally. And that doesn't seem like it's very much, but to be in the normal range is 4%. So he was only slightly below normal. And so we thought that this was because of the mumps, but when we went and saw the urologist said, no, this probably is not because of the mumps, because if it was because of the mumps, all of these numbers would be messed up instead of just the one. He ordered us to do another semen analysis, which we have not done yet because they're almost $200, and we got pregnant in April. So that's kind of where we are with our infertility, and that was a really, really long answer, and I apologize. So my thyroid now, my TSH is 0.9, which is well within the range of trying to conceive. We haven't done much else about his fertility. I bought him vitamins that he is not always taking. So there you go. Oh, I skipped a question that was, how old are you and your husband? I'm 24, my husband's 26. What keeps me busy during the 2-week wait? Going crazy, thinking that I'm pregnant, getting every single pregnancy symptom known to man, peeing on sticks, and working. On what day do I usually ovulate? My cycles are kind of all over the place a little bit. My longest cycle has been 35 days. My shortest has been 28. So anywhere between day 14 and day 18, I think, is when I've gotten positive ovulation tests. I cannot monitor my temperature because I work night shift and I don't wake up consistently at the same time every day. And I tried, and it was getting really stressful, and then my dog ate the thermometer. How many pregnancy books do you have? I just have one. I just have one. My mom bought me one when we started trying. I also have nursing textbooks on women's health that I refer to as needed. What gender are you hoping for? Boy, girl. Honestly, girl would be fun, but I'd be totally happy with a boy. Either one. What are some stress relievers when trying to conceive? YouTube is a great one. And that's why I'm making this video, because I love watching other people's TTC journeys, and I love seeing people get those positive pregnancy tests, and I love seeing people deal with the hardship too. I think that's really helpful. I also watch some daily vloggers, and makeup was the first thing that really got me into YouTube, but makeup's been kind of going on the back burner. It's not as interesting to me as it once was. I feel like everything's kind of been done. What themes or designs would you want for a nursery? This is the last question. So for a nursery, I think what I really like are calming, kind of not childish nurseries. I do not like nurseries with themes. I like them for other people, but for us, that's not really something that I like. I really like gray nurseries. I want it to be a room that they can kind of grow into, and I also really want it to be a room that doesn't kind of put them in a corner. Like, oh, you have to like cars because we did this cars themed nursery. So that's kind of where I am with the nursery. Again, we'll see. I'm not pregnant. Who knows what happens when those crazy hormones start going. Maybe we're going to have like a lollipop themed nursery or something insane. But there that is. Okay, so again, Elizabeth, thank you so much for watching my channel. And stick around because I am probably going to film a lot more videos today. This is the first day that I'm filming, and I am very, very excited.